All right, here we are, quarter one, week 8, day 1. Find an equivalent fraction. All right, so to find an equivalent fraction, we basically have to scale both the numerator and the denominator by the same number. We can scale up by multiplying or scale down by dividing. So since there's no number that I can see that's really easy to divide into 2 and 3, I'm just going to multiply. So the easiest number to multiply by that's not 1 would be 2, right? So that would be really easy to do that. So 2 times 2 is 4. 3 times 2 is 6. That would be one option. Okay, the other thing you could do is multiply them both by 3 or both by 4. Both by any number. Once again, you either have to multiply or divide. You can't just add or subtract. But you have to do it both to the numerator and the denominator. All right, so let's look over here at the 5/8. So 5/8, we have the 5, the 8. Is there a number that we can divide into both 5 and 8 that's nice and even? I don't think there is. So with that being the case, once again, we can multiply. So just to make it interesting, we always multiply by 2. Well, this time let's just multiply by 5. Why not? So 5 times 5 is 25. 8 times 5 is 40. So 25 over 40. Did I have to multiply by 5? Absolutely not. I could have chosen any number. I could have just done it by 2 again, just like I always do pretty much. But we didn't do it this time. As long as we do the same number, we multiply by the top and the bottom, the numerator and the denominator, it will work. So we found an equivalent fraction for each one of these fractions. It takes Joey 3/16 of an hour to write a thank you card. How many cards can he write in 3/4 of an hour? So he basically has 3/4 of an hour. Well, a whole hour is 60 minutes, so 3/4 of an hour would be 45 minutes. So basically what we're trying to find out is how many notes can he write in 3/4 of an hour or 45 minutes? All right, let's go ahead and set it up and figure it out. So we have 3/4 and we have 1/16. All right, so we're going to see how many 1/16 go into 3/4. We are going to do our keep, change, flip. We're going to keep the 3/4. We're going to change this to a multiplication sign. And we're going to flip this or find the reciprocal. So it's going to be 16 over 1. Guys, this is the opportunity where a cross reducing would really help before we do our multiplication. So this is when we look at an angle across and see, is there something that goes into each one of those numbers? Well, the 3 and the 1, if we're looking this way, there's nothing we can do to reduce those. But if we look at the 4 and the 16, there is. Okay, because 4 goes into 4 one time. 4 goes into 16 4 times. So now we just have multiplying across this direction. 3 times 4 is 12. 1 times 1 is 1. So the answer to this is 12. So Joey is going to be able to write 12 cards in 3/4 of an hour. All right, we have yet another find the quotient. Again, the reason why these keep coming up is because there's going to be a question like this. So I'm going to go ahead and give you the answer on this situation, or with this one, we have 275,000 or 275.833 or 275 and 833 thousandths. So that is the answer for this one. Write it down. If you have an opportunity, again, it's going to be up to you. Make sure you take some time to practice these because there's definitely going to be some. But the answer to this one is 275.833. Okay, we're going to find the difference, and we have two numbers that have decimals. So what do we have to do? If we have numbers with decimals, we have to line them up. All right, so we're going to have 87.09 minus 29.1. Okay, we could put the 0 here just to make sure it's a little easier to see that what we have is just not an open space, I guess. So 9 minus 0 is 9. We can't take 1 away from 0, so we're going to have to borrow from the 7 and make that a 6. So we have 10 minus 1 is a 9 again. Can't take 9 away from 6, so we're going to have to borrow from the 8. 16 minus 9 is 7. Sorry. 16 minus 9 is 7, and then 7 minus 2 is 5. So the answer is 57.99, or 57 and 99 hundredths. 57 and 99 hundredths. The least common multiple of 6 and 7. So let's find some multiples of 6. 6 times 2 is 12. 6 times 3 is 18. 6 times 4 is 24. 6 times 5 is 30. 6 times 6 is 36. And 6 times 7 is 42. All right, so let's find multiples of 7. We have 7, 14. Sorry about that one. 7, and then we have 14, 21, 28, 7, 14, 21, 28, 35, 42. Oh, looks like we can stop right there because the number that's in both of these is 42. So the least common multiple of 6 and 7 is 42. And it happens to be the answer to 6 times 7. So that is the least common multiple for 6 and 7. Okay, now we need to find the missing number for each unit rate. Okay, so again, we need to get down to 1, which means if we're going downward, we're going to be dividing or multiplying by a fraction. So in this situation, let's see what number would we need to divide to get from 3 down to 1. We would have to divide by 3. Right? You have to just divide it by itself. So if you're going to do that divided by 3, you have to do 18 divided by 3. So if you do 18 divided by 3, what do you get? The answer is 6th. So the unit rate for 3/18 is 1/6. Right? The unit rate for 3/18 is 1/6. Let's find the unit rate for the next one. What do we do to get from 2 down to 1? Yep, we divide by 2. So 12 divided by 2 will give us 6. So there's the unit rate. So we have 2 unit rates. Both are 1/6. Even though we started with a different fraction, they reduce down to 1/6. For every 24 minutes of television, there are 6 minutes of commercials. How many minutes of commercials are there in 1 hour and 36 minutes of television? All right, so if 1 hour and 36 minutes of television, it would probably be easier to break it down to how many total minutes that actually is. Okay, so we have 60 minutes would be 1 hour. So an hour and 36 minutes would be 60 plus 36, which would be then a total of 96. So I'm going to write down 96 here because that's how many total minutes we have. Well, at this point, we know that it's kind of chunked into 24 minutes at a time. So 24 minutes, each 24 minutes has 6 minutes of commercials. Okay, so what we want to do is find out how many chunks of 24 minutes can we get into 96. Okay, so if you take 96 and you divide it by 24, what you're going to find out is that 24 goes into 96 4 times. Okay, so basically we have 4 chunks of 24 minutes. Okay, so since there's 4 sets of 24 minutes in an hour and 36 minutes, which is the same as 96 minutes, okay, and there's 6 minutes of commercials for each set of that 24 minutes, what would we do to find out how many total minutes of commercials there are for this? Well, we would just take the 6 minutes and we would multiply it by the numbers of sets of 24 go into the 96 minutes. So 6 times 4 is 24. Okay, so there are 24 minutes. There are 24 minutes in the hour and 36 minutes of TV time. 24 minutes of that is going to be commercials. All right, you might want to play this back later on just to kind of get all the details again, but that's how you would find it. Take the hour and 36, find out how many minutes that is, and then divide 24 into it. Then that's how many sets of 24 there are. Multiply that by 6. What percent is 28 of 70? All right, there are so many different ways to do this. This time we're going to do it by scaling up and down. So we're going to have a 28 out of 70. What would that percent be? Okay, so that would be like if you had a test, there were 70 questions, and you got 28 of them correct, what would be your score? Well, you can already tell it's probably not going to be a really great score, but let's see. All right, so what I'm going to do for this time is I'm going to scale it up. And I know that the denominator needs to be 100, and there's no way for me to get to 70 straight to 100. So I'm going to do 70 times 10. Okay, because if I do that, I know that's going to get me to 700. And you'll find out why we want to get to 700 all of a sudden in just a second here. And of course, if I multiply 28 times 10, that's going to give me 280. Okay, because we just add the 0 at the end of it. All right, the reason why I wanted to scale up to 700 is because 100 goes into 700 evenly. And we always want to get the denominator to 100 if you're finding percent, because percent means per 100. So what divides into 700 to get me 100? Well, we can divide 7. We can divide 7 into it, and that gives us 100. So if we're going to divide the top number by 7, we're also going to divide the bottom number by 7. We're going to do the same to the top. 7 goes into 28 4 times, right? 7, 14, 21, 28. So we know the answer is going to be 4, and then the 0 at the end of it. So basically, if you have something like this, 40 out of 100, what percent does that represent? Well, since percent means out of 100, it is going to be 40%. So that's a way to actually use scaling, like scaling things up and down to get to a percent, because you can always figure probably some way to get the denominator to be 100. And as long as you can treat the numerator the same way, then you are set. So there's lots of different ways to do this. This is the way I wanted to show you this time. So go ahead and make sure that you have this written down, and this is a way that you can do it anytime you want to find percent. Okay, and on this box, they want us to write down what is the unit here. Is it a metric unit or is it a customary unit? All right, so to kind of put it into a nutshell, basically, customary is pretty much what we use here in the United States, like, feet and inches and miles. Okay, and pretty much everyone else uses metric. Okay, so we're just basically going to label each one of these, whether it is customary or metric. Okay, so if we look at these, and again, there's no way to kind of just teach you these on the spot other than have you look at them and memorize them over time looking at customary and metric. But you can see that obviously a lot of times here we talk about inches, right? When we're measuring feet, we're talking about inches. So that's customary. When we're talking about distance, we talk about miles. We also measure things in feet. And when we're cooking, we always measure in ounces pretty much. So meters, decimeters, and grams, those would all be metric. So go ahead and write these down, and that way you'll have the correct answers for these.